Welcome back to Selena's table and our little Aussie homestead. Today I've got a couple of baking mixes I want to show you. One of them is pancake mix. So if you've noticed that convenience foods are getting really expensive now to buy, we don't really buy them anyway, but this is a great money saving tip. If you're someone who likes the convenience of those packet mixes, this is a video for you. So you can make them at home, just give it one afternoon, throw a bunch of ingredients together, package them up and have them in your pantry or your fridge ready to go. So today we're going to make some pancake mix, a butterscotch self-saucing pudding mix, and also apple crumble, the topping. So with apple crumble, you just take out like a tin of fruit. You can use actually any fruit, but apples is the chosen one for the recipe. And then you just top the crumble mixture on top and pop it in the oven and it's done. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with the pancake mix. So you can make your pancake mix in whatever you like. I'm going to put it in a nice jar. You do need a nice tight, like secure lid though. This has got a rubber seal in there, so this is a good jar to use. And it needs to hold over a kilo worth of flour. So it's going to be flour and some other ingredients, but there is a kilo's worth of flour. So you want to get yourself a decent sized jar. If you don't have a large jar, but you have a couple of smaller ones, you can break this in half, this recipe, and use it as two smaller jars. So we want a kilo of flour in our jar. So I'm going to make this straight in the jar and we're going to give it a quick toss. So this is a really easy recipe. So we want 1 kilo of just plain flour. To that, we're going to add 150 grams of white sugar. We want 1 full cup and 2/3 of a cup of powdered milk. And that's the 1 cup. Five tablespoons of baking powder. That might seem like a lot, but the baking powder is what's going to make your pancakes really nice and fluffy. Okay, so we want 5. 1. There we go. Perfect. And then 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. Okay. Now, you want to pop your lid on. See, that took no time at all. And just give it a good mix. Keeping your lid on. So the great thing about these mixes is if you think about those shake pancake mixes, you know, in the little jugs and you add water to them and an egg or something like that. This is essentially the same thing, except it's one big batch. So you can do little mixes in little Ziploc bags or something, especially if you want to go camping. So there's a hot tip. If you're going camping, portion it out into the individual sizes, the batches, I should say, and then you can just make it as you need to on your camping trip. So to my jar, I'm actually going to add my instructions, and so this will make 5 batches of pancakes, okay? So this is a 250 gram roughly a batch, okay? And then to that, we're going to add other ingredients when we want to actually make our pancakes. Okay, so what I have here is some of that printer sticker paper. Now you can go as fancy as you like. You can print things off and make it beautiful, but I'm just going to use this with my Nico pen. I'm going to write pancake mix on one, the instructions to make a batch of pancakes on another one, and then on a small one I'm just going to write what this is. So in case I had someone with a food allergy wanting to come over and have pancakes for some reason, or when I go to remake because we've run out, I know exactly what's in it and I can put that on the bottom. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. So to make a batch of pancakes, you'll need 250 grams of pancake mix, 50 grams of melted butter. You can also use oil if you prefer. You'll need 300 mils of water and 2 eggs, and you just whisk them well and cook in a pan. Okay, so there's my instructions, really simple. So next up is our butterscotch self-saucing pudding mix. And what I do for a butterscotch self-saucing pudding is I put them in these little bags. Okay, I've labeled it on the front, and on the back I've got my instructions and how long to cook it for. Okay, on each of these. If you've ever had a self-saucing pudding, so it's like a little cake in a baking dish, and then you sprinkle a sauce packet over the top, and in this case it is just brown sugar. You put a little bit of butter on top of that, some boiling water, and then you bake it. And when it's baking, the cake is going to rise to the top, and underneath a sauce is going to form, and in this case this is a butterscotch flavored one. So when you buy one of those cake mixes, you usually get 2 packets in your box, and one will be your cake mix and the other will be your sauce mix. So that's what I've got here, a sauce mix packet and a cake mix packet, and they'll go together in the pantry. All right, so I'm going to make 2 of these. First things first, in our little sauce packets, we just need to put some brown sugar. So the dry mix for the butterscotch sauce is just brown sugar. Okay, and it's 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar per recipe. So that's a 1/4 cup, 3 of those. And like I said, you could obviously go straight to the pantry and just get the brown sugar out when you go to make this. The reason I'm packaging it up is purely for the convenience of having it all ready, all measured, ready to go. So this is something that you can throw together as like a last minute dessert where you didn't have to really think about it. Okay, so there we go. And it's just some brown sugar. To this, when we go to make it, we do add some butter and some boiling water. But yeah, so it's just pre-measured really. There's our 2 little sauce packets are done. And now for the actual butterscotch pudding, the cake mix, I'm going to use my little stands. So we need 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar in each of these. 1 1/4 cups of self-raising flour. If you don't have self-raising flour, you can use plain flour and add a teaspoon of baking powder. You want to add a pinch of salt to each of these. 1 tablespoon of powdered milk. Rather heaped is fine. And that is the mixture for the cake component of our packet mix. Give that a good mix. And I'll just clip these together, okay? Or you could put it in another bag so that they were together and you didn't lose your little sauce mix. So there we go, butterscotch pudding, and I have got the rest of the ingredients that you'll need to add on the back here. I will link down below, or I will put in the description box down below the full recipe for an individual packet mix, including the additions that you need to add when you go to make it, okay? If you've seen my other baking mixes video, you will have seen that I reuse my packets as well. So until they break, I will reuse them. So when we make a batch, we'll use it, and then I give it a good clean out, and then we just reuse our batch. So we'll make another lot and keep it in the pantry. So these aren't single-use plastic. We don't throw them out. So I decided I will make a couple of the chocolate self-saucing puddings as well. Same process as the butterscotch, just these ones are chocolate flavored. The recipe is a little bit different, but yeah, it's also a crowd favorite. And by making 2 chocolate ones and 2 butterscotch ones, we automatically have 4 ready to go desserts for those, oh my gosh, I really need dessert nights, okay? So they will be in the pantry, ready to go. 4 essentially boxes of dessert mix, and they have taken no time at all. So in the same way as I made the others, I'm going to do my little sauce packets first. And in there we need 1 cup of sugar. Hopefully these packets are going to be big enough. And 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Sauce mix might be easier to actually make in a bigger packet. Because we need to give them a good mix. So I'm just going to write on top of here that this is the sauce packet and that we add 1.5 cups of boiling water to the top. I'll show you how to make these cake mixes, this self-saucing pudding mix at some stage. Now, they're certainly not healthy, but they also don't have any foreign ingredients. Okay, sauce mix is done. Okay, 1 cup of self-raising flour again. Tablespoon of cocoa, 1/2 cup of white sugar, a tablespoon of powdered milk each, and that's it. So there's one chocolate self-saucing pudding. And again, I have got the instructions on the back with the things you'll need to add to make this into dessert. So the last dessert mix we're going to make is our apple crumble topping, okay? There's a couple of ways you can do this. I'm doing it just like I have those other mixes where I'm just gonna have the dry ingredients, and then when I go to make apple crumble, I will make the topping by adding some melted butter. The alternative is you can rub your butter in or use a food processor and combine all the crumble ingredients now. You'll just need to store it in the fridge if you decide to do that way, okay? Because I am going to do it with the melted butter, I'm going to be able to keep mine in the pantry. All right, so I will leave all those instructions though in the description box, so don't worry if I have lost you slightly, it should be down there for you to follow. And so yeah, I'm gonna make 2 of these as well. So in our little packets, we want to be adding a cup of flour. This is just plain flour. And that's a 1/2 cup measure, so 2 of those. A 1/3 of a cup of coconut. A 1/3 of a cup of oats. You can use the quick cooking oats or you can use just the rolled oats. One cup of sugar. Cup of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. So the cinnamon's optional. You can also add some nuts if that's something you like as well. Nuts make apple crumble yummy. And that's it. So if you were wanting to do this in a food processor and add your butter now, you'd want to add 150 grams of butter. Okay. Ready to go. Thank you for hanging out with me in the kitchen today as we made our pre-mix dessert mixes. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll make sure I do link my baking mixes video for you and even some seasonings maybe. Yeah, I hope you give these a try and see how they work out for you. See you next time. Bye.